When Nanny first took me in, she made a vow to see me through school. Little did I know that going into one world would signal the end of another. My father went to have a simple bypass and never made it out of the recovery room. He had always been there for me. Aileen was still battling her demons. When it finally looked like she might be winning, she was gunned down in a drive-by and killed. My sophomore year, Nanny was diagnosed with breast cancer. When Death came by to visit Nanny, she told him, "God ain't done with me yet, so move on down the line."
Stay on the speed limit.
The year I graduated, we found out that Uncle Bill had lung cancer. Within 6 months, he was gone.
I'ma keep on talking, I ain't gotta sing no more.
Businesses all up and down Wasson Avenue started closing down. Because for every door integration opened, it meant the closing of another in the community. Maxie's, The Flame, The Rim. The vibrant world of Lackawana I'd always known started to fade away.
Come on.
32 Wasson Avenue wanted me to have more, amount to more than they did. And so they gave me that bit of themselves that they felt was their best. And the blues I heard and the stories they told will live inside of me forever.
I just want to reiterate something. What you saw was the ending clip of a movie Lackawana Blues. That's actually a film that I grew up down the street from the house in which that movie was based on. If you have, it's no movies on HBO and it's on YouTube free. I'll link it. But if you listen to what Hill Harper said at the end, he said for every business that opened via integration, another black business closed or a business in the community closed. And that's important because, again, when we talk about Black Wall Street, and I don't think it's nitpicking, I don't think it's a moot point. I think it's a point that we keep ignoring that's real powerful and relevant. Black Wall Street didn't just end after the terrorist attack. It didn't just stop there and was done. It flourished for another freaking 20 years. It was hurt by integration. Integration and desegregation did more damage to Black Wall Street than the terrorist attack. They recovered within 5 years from that. Clearly, we've never recovered from the effects of integration. I was just watching Sincere Prince video, and they were alluding to a situation with Yvette Cornell. Yvette Cornell has talked about Black Wall Street too, and in her defeatist argument, like, yeah, we tried it before, it didn't work. Ironically, you know, during Reconstruction era, before Jim Crow and all that, you know, black people produced more, you know, doctors, more lawyers, more teachers, all that stuff, despite, you know, not having government help. So that's when I'm listening to Angry Man's conversation about this today too, and his guest comes in talking about black people and socialists. like that's synonymous with some shit. Like black people have to be socialists, as if we didn't have examples of us collectively winning without state help. Now, I'm not one saying that the government is not important. I've never said that. Even in my other video, I gave an example of how it goes hand in hand. The situation going on in Detroit right now with Flint. A black construction company has gotten the bid to fix the pipes. So yes, what is one of the responsibilities of the government? To protect the citizens. The lead in the water was a failure of the government to protect the citizens. They have the resources to get it done, and that black company, that black entrepreneurship had to be in the position to get that contract. So it was like, business does matter. But I just wanted to reiterate though, because when we talk about Black Wall Street again, and I said it in my other video, I hate these documentaries, and I even said that several times. I haven't watched Voices yet. I'm about to probably watch it this weekend. But if it's like, if you end it at the damn terrorist attack and that's it, that's wrong. Because it's like people continuously say that, it failed because of this and it failed because of that, and that was it. It did not fail because of lack of anything on our part. Maybe, as far like not having a military, not having government to protect it, like that's not why it failed. It failed under integration legislation. And the shit is right there written. And I don't understand why we keep saying that that's the reason why it failed. We didn't need government, not having a military. After that situation happened, it flourished for 20 years. Ain't nobody bothering them for 20 years. And that's an important point. And we got to keep putting that out there. It's just weird seeing how often I watch commentary from folks, and it's little simple stuff. Like, I expect in the comment section, for me, people to just put the right answer, not on some dickhead shit, but just be like, yo, this is what really happened. Sometimes I am lazy, because you're talking off the cuff, you're not writing the shit down, you're just speaking contemporaneously. So sometimes you forget things and you mix things up, you have brain farts, whatever, but it's like, that's what the comment sections are for. People can be like, oh, this is what really happened, or if I wasn't lazy, I can go back and put the hyperlink and say what I really meant. But it's not like I'm nitpicking on this point, but it's a valid point that we keep ignoring or we keep overlooking. Even when white liberals talk about Black Wall Street, there's a segment where the Young Turks talk about it. And it's funny too when Anna, when she goes on and talks about the nepotism that occurred under Black Wall Street. And she kind of emphasizes, but they had to do it, like, because basically on some white guilt shit saying, well, when white people do it, it's wrong, but when black people do it, they had to. Like, no, that's how the world works. That's why all these other groups are eating and working together and building together and hiring each other. That's why Google and Facebook and Silicon Valley look the way it looks, because of nepotism, because they look out for each other. That's just how it works. But that's just an important point that needs to be made. Black Wall Street was rebuilt within 5 years and flourished for another 20 years. Keep saying that shit until we get it right, because we got to quit saying it failed because we didn't have a military, it failed because we didn't have a government to protect it. None of that's true. Integration hurt Black Wall Street and all the other elements of it around the country. And this movie shows you straight up. This is, this movie is based on a time when, basically this movie, if you haven't seen it, was about a halfway house that was literally up the street from where I grew up at. And it was like, this lady took in all types of people in the community, people, ex-cons, drug dealers, prostitutes, whatever. But this is like back when we had an actual community, back when you had a neighborhood where you had the doctor and the lawyer and the garbage man all in the same space, and everybody's eating off of each other, and everybody's teaching each other, and everybody's, whatever I'm good at, I'm gonna help you with, vice versa. The whole it takes a village thing was going on prior to integration. This happened, and all these businesses and stuff, he mentions them in the movie, they were all gone right after civil rights legislation was passed, because black folks thought the ice over there was colder. So, but that's it. I just want to reiterate that point because it has to be made. It has to be understood. It has to be accepted. We got to quit saying why it failed and why it didn't work. Those are wrong reasons. This information is simple and it's right there in our face. You can even go to Wikipedia and it tells you exactly that Black Wall Street was rebuilt within 20 years, within 5 years, and flourished another 20 years without government assistance, without government help. And that's not even my point. I'm not saying that government is not needed. Again, you saw the example. I've never been on that narrative. But some people are making the argument that it has to be government to do certain things. I'm like, well, again, I look at my example to the Irish. Out of all the European ethnic white groups, they're the least financially stable out of all groups. Even though they dominated politics, they dominated police officers, they dominated the firefighters. They got those government jobs. But other groups came in with economic businesses without the political capital, but they had money so they could buy their influence. So basically they bought the damn Irish politicians' influence to get the things that they needed. But the Irish had all the political capital, and they're the least financially stable out of all Eastern European groups. You can say that same thing for the Asians. They have resources. They don't have political capital. They don't have ties. We know we know all who Jews voted for, blacks, white women, all that. We don't know how the Asians vote because they're irrelevant to the voting block. It's not their thing. So I'm saying it to say, I'm not saying that politics doesn't matter, but I'm saying you can't ignore that there are examples of people who did flourish despite political capital. And you can't ignore the contribution that black people made during Reconstruction, before Jim Crow, before integration. They did all of that without government help. Just real quick too, also something that was stated, just little things, not that deep, but in Angry Man's video, because I watched the Thought Crimes response to what happened with Boyce and Yvetta, and I watched Angry Man's, and that shit was hard to listen to. But that's actually my first time listening to his commentary. But one thing he said that was just stupid was that it was dumb for black people to use equity out of the house to start businesses. But the reality is that's what we've been doing. And black home ownership is at a 40-year low. Most of black wealth is in their home. So if we're not buying homes, and if we're not even getting equity in the houses in the first place, then you can't make a lot of the moves, especially this generation, the millennials. They're not buying houses, but you can't make moves that your parents or grandparents made because they're not buying houses, and home ownership is down right now. But to say that it's stupid and all this is irrelevant. We've been doing that. That's what we do. That's where most black wealth is in their home. You know. Another thing, something that was misleading, or something that was said that was not true, was when in Thought Crimes video they said that, Yvetta Carnell is not the end all be all. She's not saying that her way is the only way, and that's not it ain't about taking sides, but a lot of people who ride with Yvetta, they're not being honest about her full ideology. She's a statist. Like, she's not for business at all. People have called in on her show and said, why can't we do both? And she shot that down. She's giving reasons. She has no faith or hope in any type of black economic enterprise. She'd rather have a community full of black people with making $15 an hour, working for the government and being protected by the government. Okay? You can't remove that from her ideology. It ain't just that she's a politician and wants to talk about politics. The state is her daddy. So every time you give an example, every time she gives you give her a rugged individual example, it's always shot down. Anything with personal responsibility, anything with an individual doing it, a business, she's gonna shoot it down because that's not her philosophy, and people aren't being honest about that. She's not encouraging. We could get we need to go get the capital so we can buy some of these politicians. She's not saying that. And people gotta be honest about that. She's a statist. She's a leftist. She's worse. She's damn near on some socialist communist type shit. And yes, I know there's a difference, but socialism is the little bitch that turns into the big bitch communism eventually. And that's one of the things that the caller kept saying. How dare black people on an Angry Man show? What's up with black people saying white people talking points? Like, motherfucker, black folks existed in this country without any help from the state. Yes, now black people are overwhelmingly employed by the state because the private sector isn't messing with us. But that hasn't always been our story. So that's just pretty much it. This situation is interesting. I'm surprised that so many people covered this actually, because not a lot of people covered their first debate when they went at it actually back and forth. But I guess this is more drama and more nonsense. Again, I don't have sides. I think in reality, even though Boyce, does oversell his lack of critique of black women and all that stuff, his argument is more of a patriarchal argument, more of a masculine argument, and Yvette, it's just more of a female argument. Moved by emotion. She wants the state to protect her. She doesn't want to take risks. She doesn't trust capitalism. She doesn't trust business. She would rather have a community full of black folks making $50 an hour rather than there be individual successful millionaire black people. That's her philosophy. And people aren't adding that in their commentaries that either side with her or are trying to play, cool on both sides. Don't remove that part from her, not her ideology, because that's important. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I say this whole back and forth with them is pointless. They have different worldviews. People who want to be entrepreneurs and want to start their own business, they're gonna rock with Boyce. People who want to wait for the government to do things, they're gonna go with Yvette. And you can just say at the end of the day, see, who wins? Like, it ain't even, like, that's sad to say that, but like, that's just the reality where we at. When you look at 94% of black people voting for Hillary, despite all the things that she has receipts on with black people, and how much Yvette gets attacked for actually holding Hillary accountable or holding Obama accountable, you ain't even got the numbers of people who even would, put their emotions aside and actually have a black politics. Like, that's the thing that women address either. She's talking about this is black politics. This is how black politics works. We're going to maneuver and we're going to support whoever has policy for us. But most black folks ain't on that. Most black folks are too goddamn emotional for politics. And I'm saying even the black people who are liberals, they're not leftists like Yvette, but they are liberals. They are progressives. And they think she goes too far because she wants to hold people accountable, or she's willing to go across the aisle and get votes, which I respect that aspect of Yvette's argument. She's willing to work with people despite their political affiliation, as long as it's putting black dollars in black people's hands. But I think Boyce is more balanced in his argument. He said in his video that he's not against politics at all. He just rather not wait for people to fix your lives, because it's not gonna happen. It's just reality.
As it was also known, would be to compare it to a mini Beverly Hills. It was the golden door of the black community during the early 1900s, and it proved that African Americans could create a successful infrastructure. Black America's most prosperous community, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went up in flames June 1st, 1921 in a KKK-led Tulsa race riot. This community consisted of individuals that looked out for one another. But more than that, it consisted of individuals that were beyond successful. Some of the most intelligent minds got together and created some of the most successful businesses. They looked out for one another. They created an education system that we can only dream of today. They believed in nepotism only because these black individuals had been so disenfranchised by society that they felt that they can only look out for one another. And as a result, money stayed in their community. In fact, it was passed off about 100 times within the community before it left the community. Right now, when it comes to a black neighborhood, a dollar lasts in that neighborhood for about 15 minutes and then it leaves. And so they managed to create a society that was successful. They were prospering. But it turns out that white individuals in neighboring areas were not too happy about that, particularly the KKK. So this led to a riot, and the way the KKK crafted this riot shows you exactly how deep that jealousy and that envy was. What they did is they accused a man of raping a white woman.